Welcome to Resilient Minds 365, where we discuss the resilient stories of entrepreneurs, professionals, and students with mental illnesses to encourage you to strive, thrive, and live in abundance. I'm your host, Cleoni Crawford. Welcome to another episode of Resilient Minds 365. I'm Cleoni Crawford, your host. Thank you very much for coming. Today, we have a wonderful guest with us. We have Justin Brien. Who is Justin Brien? Well, Justin Brien is a mental health advocate. He's an inspirational speaker and a professional executive coach. However, to be able to put those titles in front of his name, he had to overcome a 16-year-old battle with addiction and lifelong battle with depression. After hospitalizing himself with suicidality and alcoholism on January the 4th, 2019, he turned his life around to help others understand the capabilities of what mental health and addiction can do to a person. So with that said, I now present to you Justin Brien. How are you doing, Justin?
I'm doing very well, and thank you for getting my last name right. Not a lot of people call me Brien. Not a lot of people get it, Brian.
Okay, no worries, no worries. I'm glad I got it right too. So, Justin, tell us a little bit. First of all, where are you from?
I'm from a little town in British Columbia called Salmon BC, and it's a town of about 18,000 people. But in the summers, like we have a big lake, so we multiply by I don't know how many.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. So, tell us a little bit more about your profession, what you do currently.
So what do? I'm actually a part-time server still because I just started my coaching and my speaking.
Okay.
So I serve part-time, but I came up with a 12-week personal development program called the Stronger You Project, where I work with people one-on-one for 12 weeks to really turn their lives around. You know, they want to set up healthy boundaries, work on their self-confidence, move past those self-limiting beliefs, identifying, fear, stress, anxiety, and triggers, and really trying to move past those barriers. And one of the biggest things we work on is, finding your why. What's your purpose? What's your passion? And working on that non-negotiable list to keep you more accountable and from less procrastination. So
Mhm.
what people do is they work with me one-on-one. They get homework, they get modules, they get an accountability sheet where they actually grade themselves on how they did that week.
Cool.
And then we meet every week, and then they also get 24-hour support if they have to reach out.
Okay. Well, that sounds exciting. It sounds really cool. And how long have you been doing that?
About 8 or 9 months now.
Your mind. Okay, so it's brand new. It's a brand new practice. That's awesome. So have you gotten yourself a lot of clients doing that so far? I mean, it's still new, but
Yeah, actually, I've already had 8 clients go through the program right now, and it's really cool to see them, to see the changes they make. Some make it within 4 weeks, some make it at 6, some make it at 8. Some made it at one guy made it at the biggest change at I think, yeah, 10 weeks or something close. No, it was, well, maybe it was 8 or 9, but it's just something switched, something happened dramatically, and they just got it, and they bought into the system, they did the work, and then they turned it around. I remember I had one lady at week 6. We were going over limiting beliefs, and I believe it was limiting beliefs, and she just started crying. Oh no, uh-oh.
oh.
But there were tears of joy because she finally said something into her, and then she started crying, and she finally started to realize her self-worth.
Hmm.
And she said thank you, and that was one of the coolest things I've been a part of, is to see someone realize that, hey, you are worth more than you know. And she kind of started to step into herself.
Cool. So what is the most rewarding thing that has happened? I mean, other than the story you just gave, what is the most rewarding thing that your current profession has done for you? What is yeah, what has it done for you? How is
Well, you know what, I've had another guy become more, or two people become more successful at their home life and their business life,
Mhm.
personal and professional. Another person quit drinking, actually, which was pretty cool to be a part of. But
Yeah.
it's just seeing, yeah, it's just seeing the transformation, from when we start to where they finish. And I know a lot of people were hesitant to do it, and like to get on the first calls, they were nervous and stuff. But I encouraged them, like, hey, come on, it's okay. And we can just sit here and talk. It's just a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
One girl actually went back to school because
Cool.
she's upgrading her profession. So it's really cool to be able to see the transformation and to be able to give back, kind of thing, to help people along their way and realize that they are worth it, that putting self-care and yourself first, you can actually be better for other people. A lot of my clients, that's the biggest problem they had was, putting themselves first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you want to be there for your kids, you want to be there for your spouse, but when you start filling up other people's buckets and your bucket's not getting full, well, then you start to get drained. And when you start to get drained, your emotions get triggered. You start to get irritable, frustrated, sad, like angry really easy. But if you can start to take care of yourself first, um, you start to be better for other people. Like if you're at 100%, then you can be 100% for others. If you're at
Right.
50%, you might be able to turn it up, but it's harder to keep that momentum going. So that's why when I say self-care is the best care, well, it actually is, but people have a hard time doing that because they feel guilty for it. Like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this for me,
Mm-hmm.
which it's like, you know what? And that's where the healthy boundaries come in. It's when people start doing more for other people. And there's that quote where when you say no to someone else, you're saying yes to yourself. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you start to become a yes person, people are going to take advantage of that, knowing that they can call you, but then you're going to wear yourself out. So when people started to um, put themselves first, they really started to notice a big change, and they stopped feeling it's do stuff for yourself and stop feeling guilty for it.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. So now that I know a little bit about what you do and the role you play in our society, I'd like to know, we'll go into the mental health parts to learn about more about your story. So what is your mental health diagnosis and when were you diagnosed?
So I was diagnosed with clinical depression, which is a sadness that basically lasts every single day, and it can last all day. And it did. Like it was brutal. It was really tough to go through. Where there's days I didn't know if I was going to make it, and then I was diagnosed with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. So it's hard to keep my minds in control without wandering everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Social and general anxiety, but I also suffered from some concussions, um, which ultimately helped me to becoming an addict, like coping with alcohol and drugs. Because the first time I tried that, it's like, okay, well, now I feel better about myself. It gave me that false sense of confidence. It turned me into someone I thought I liked, and
Right.
very quickly people are starting to be like, oh well, this guy is out of control, kind of thing. But I got diagnosed with all of that at 26 or I think 28 years old. So 28, I believe, is when I first started actively trying to get help.
Okay.
And
Wow.
30, I was diagnosed with ADHD.
Okay.
I think it's clinical depression at 28, ADHD and anxiety at 30. So 4 years ago, 6 years ago. How old am I? I'm 36. Age is just a number.
Yeah, totally, totally, definitely. Oh my gosh. So your diagnosis was pretty recent, not just within the last 8 years, I guess.
6, yeah, 8 years. Yep, yep, yep.
Right, right, right. So
But I lived with it for I don't know how long.
okay, definitely, because that's usually what it is. People will have symptoms, but they don't really know that it's actually. Some people will think it's kind of part of their character or their personality, but not realizing that it actually is something that's actually going on in their minds and in their brains, and you know what I mean, like they don't really know that is an illness until they get to a point. So yeah, well, my question is, so tell us a bit more about your mental health story of resilience. What happened? When did you realize that you had the depression? Um, how far did it go? Everything. Walk us through your story.
Well, from a very young, now looking back at it, now that I understand mental health and I know more about it, from a very young age, I always felt less than. I had friends, people liked me, but I always compared myself to other people. I had very low self-esteem, very low self-worth. I always wanted to be other people.
Mhm.
And when I finally got out, I was picked on a little bit, but it was like a friendly pick on, but maybe I deserved it a little bit because I was tiny and I was kind of I kind of ran my mouth a little bit, maybe too much sometimes. So it might have been warranted. But when I got out of high school, I didn't drink much in high school, barely at all actually.
Mhm.
I was very athletic, and but I was always behind my friends in sports. So I'd have to watch them play kind of thing. And that was hard to do. But when I got out, I started drinking at about 20 years old, 19, 20, and I quickly became an alcoholic, like from 0 to 100, because like I said before, of who it made me feel like, the self-confidence that it gave me. I ended up having like an algorithm to how much I would drink. I'd have this much before I leave my house, this much to, go on the dance floor, this much to talk to this girl, to where I would overuse it, and then I'd black out kind of thing and don't remember.
Mhm.
And then I ended up moving to Vancouver and bartending downtown, and that's kind of when things really started to escalate. I'm at the nightclub every night, closing up the bar as quick as I can so I can get out for power hour, power half hour, drinking as much as I can, then going home and then like ordering a bottle and drinking that. But then at 24, I actually, I graduated. I tell people to cocaine use.
Oh,
So I
wow.
started using drugs as well. And it's one of the pivoting points was I did cocaine for the first time, but I don't remember because I was drinking. And my buddy told me like the worst thing he probably could have told me is like, "Man, you were funny last night." And so I was like, "Oh, I was funny? Okay." Well, yeah, and he didn't know what he was saying. He didn't know that I was going to be like, "Okay, cocaine makes me funny." So I'm like, okay, well now if I feel low, I can drink, and now if I want to be funny, I got this cocaine. So then I
Right.
started to put them together, and that I was drinking every day. I was using fairly often, like probably almost every day as well for a little bit there, and then I started to lose jobs. And at 24, I asked myself, "Am I an alcoholic?" And the answer was no. I'm like, "Well, I'm too smart. I'm 24 years old. I like to have fun. I'm too smart to be an alcoholic." I remember walking across the Cambie Street Bridge, looking up, and I still remember it. But I knew deep down that I was. But I was also correlating alcoholism with being a low life or being not normal. And I'm like, I'm a normal person. I'm young. I'm too smart. And then about 7 months down the road, I remember having a conversation with a buddy of mine. I could still remember where we're driving. The topic of depression came up, and I looked at him. I'm like, you know what? Depression's for the weak. It's an
Mhm.
excuse. You got to man up. You gotta go to work and got to pay your bills. And so I was correlating depression with being weak and being an excuse, and alcoholism with being a low life. And I'm like, well, I'm none of those, right? Little do I know, I was both of those. I
Mhm.
was a depressed alcoholic. And what I became to realize, I was like, I was using alcohol and drugs as a coping mechanism. So then at 24, I'm disregarding these feelings. I'm ignoring them, right? Because this makes me feel better. Why would I want to quit? I'm not
Right.
hurting anybody. Fast forward 4 years, I'm with this girl. We break up because I was drinking a lot. I was not very good to be around. Then we ended up hooking up on my birthday, and she tells me she's pregnant. And at this point, I'm actually becoming suicidal. So for 6 years, I was
Wow.
suicidal every single day, not knowing if I was going to make it, making plans in my head. What would I write? But I was like, okay, I crashed a car. I'm like, that's it. I took a leave of absence from work, and like, I got to go to rehab. So I went to rehab, and this was 4 years ago. And when I got out, my son was born about two. No, geez, I went to rehab. He's 5 now, so 6 years ago, basically. And when I got out, I looked at my uncle. Like I went there, I went to my classes, I trained, I worked out twice a day, I ate 6 times, so I was getting bigger. You know, and I first got out, I looked at my uncle who picked me up, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not done drinking yet. I'm just gonna take a little break. So I just went to rehab to get my life together. And the first thing I said to him when I got out was, I'm not done forever. So my son is born, and then 2 months later, I started hitting the bottle again hard. So
Wow.
we're 6 months into his life. My girlfriend had to make a tough decision to pick up our son and leave. And I don't blame her, because I wasn't a safe environment. Well, an ideal environment. I mean, I wasn't abusive or anything like that, but I'm not in a spot that a kid should be around. So
Yes.
she had to make that decision, and I didn't blame her at all. But that ended up, you think you'd want to get better, but that just made me spiral down even more to, at one point I actually became an organ donor.
Hmm.
Yeah, organ donor, and I got milk thistle for my liver and kidney flush because I was preparing my body to give it away.
Oh.
So I wanted to get my body as healthy as I could, so that when I ended everything, I would give it away. Because there was times where, I had my son, and you think people would be like, hey, you have a son, so why would you even want to do that? Well, at one time I had him, and he's 3 years old, and all do 3-year-olds want to do? All they want to do is play with you, right?
Yeah.
So, but
Mhm.
that day I couldn't keep my thoughts together. Their mind was racing. I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm frustrated, I'm scared. So what do? I take him to the store, I got him some candy, and I make it chips, and then brought him home, and I put him in front of the TV, and I turned on a movie just so I could distract him. Then I went behind him, and I started crying. I'm staring at the back of his head, and I started asking myself these questions: like, am I going to make it? And the answer was no. Like, am I going to make it to see him score his first goal, to teach him how to ride a bike, to see him graduate or get married? And the answer was ultimately no.
Right.
Then one time I drank too much, I got alcohol poisoning, and I ended up in the hospital for the second time in 3 weeks. And I've been in the hospital 3 times with IVs in me. So my hands were going numb. I couldn't keep water down. I had to get my stepdad to take me down there. And I'm laying in this bed, pasty, shaky, sweaty, and IVs in my arms, and my ex brings my son down. And he looks at me, and I'll never forget this. Looks at me, looks at her, looks at me, looks at her, and he's like, Mommy, what's wrong with Daddy? And I started thinking right then and there, this kid deserves a father that's going to be there for him, a father that's going to raise him properly, that's going to teach him the way of life. And I'm like, well, if I just end it, for one, my parents don't understand. They don't want to see me suffering anymore. So I got in this mindset of ending is probably the best thing. And then I'm like, you know what? My ex, she's beautiful, she's smart, she's intelligent, she has this massive heart. She'll find a perfect guy for him. And you know what? He's 2-3 years old. He's not going to remember me. So I started getting this mindset of, I might as well just end it. And you know what? I was actually very lucky that, because I was in this mindset for a long time, and I didn't, I always used to think that suicide was cowardly.
Yes.
Until I went through it.
Of course.
I was in that mindset where I literally thought the world was better off without me. And I just suffered from this invisible pain. You don't know how to explain it, but I try to tell people, it's like you see your little brother, your kid choking on something, and you can see the piece, and you try to grab it, but you just can't reach. You just can't pull it out.
Right.
That's what I felt. I'm like, well, I don't want to live like this. And so I got on my mindset, maybe he's better off without me. But luckily, I started working on the gym a bit to try and get in a better shape, relieve some frustration, some anger. And I started listening to YouTube videos on motivational speaking. And I had no idea who I was listening to at the time. But the 4 main guys, Trent Shelton.
Yes.
Inky Johnson. You know who that is?
No, I have never heard of him. But
he's good. Eric Thomas.
Okay, yeah.
And Les Brown.
Yes.
So these guys, I don't know who I'm listening to, right? I do now, absolutely. But they all talked about finding your why.
Yes.
So I started asking myself these questions, and now you're gonna notice. I think one of my best qualities was I was asking myself a lot of questions.
Okay.
Like, I asked myself if I was an alcoholic. I asked myself, am I depressed, right? So I started asking myself, okay, well, what is my why? So I think the best thing what people can do is question, not necessarily question everything, but if something's bothering you, acknowledge it and then question it and try to figure out why it's going on, right? Instead of ignoring it like I did for way too long. So I started asking myself, what's my why? And I started looking at the little boy. I'm like, well, I know my capabilities. I know I have a big heart. I'm a good human. So what if I got better for him? Now I know a lot of people say you got to do it for yourself. I know a lot of people in rehab um, and addicts that they couldn't do it for themselves, so they had to find a reason to do it for. So with that, I made it my son. If I get better for him, I get better for me. If I get better for me, then I could probably actually help other people. So I went back to rehab, and instead of going with I gotta quit drinking, I put my drinking aside, and then I started asking myself why. Why do I drink? I'm depressed. Why am I depressed? Because I have low self-worth, low self-esteem, low self-confidence. Why am
Mm-hmm.
I like that? Well, I didn't like myself growing up, and I compared myself, but I didn't know how to deal with it, and I never talked about it.
Right.
So with that, I had to figure out the how. How am I going to get better? Because the why is the belief, but the how is the action part. So how am I going to get better? Well, you know what? I'm going to start gratituding and journaling and reading and listening to podcasts of guys like me who struggled and implement what they did. And then I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
give myself some grace to allow myself to feel, right? Because in life, you're going to fail. You're going to be
Yes.
tested. You're
Yes.
going to get knocked down. You're
Right.
going to have bad days, but you're going to pass. You're going to get back up, you
Yeah.
know. um, you're going to figure it out, and you will have good days.
Right.
So you just got to figure out how to do that. And one of the biggest things is I realized is that another one in my house, I'm going to talk about it. So in total I've been to over 100 doctor's appointments, 77 days in rehab, 45 addiction appointments, 10 psychologists, 10 psychiatrists. I've tried 8 different meds. But that one why really helped me as well. So with that, I left rehab,
Mm-hmm.
feeling all good, but then I hit that pink cloud to where you got the world under control, and then you realize, holy cow, this is what I have to do for the rest of my life. Because you don't just recover, it's a recovery.
That's right. It's consistent.
Yeah, and it hit me, and then I started drinking again, and then that's when I ended up hospitalizing myself on January 4th, 2019, and with my dad to my left, my mom in front of me, and a counselor to the right, I finally admitted out loud that I had a plan, and that plan was to end it.
Mm.
But since that day, I've been sober 27, 28 months now, and I've spoke to over 500 people on mental health and addiction, or workplace wellness, and created my own personal development program. So it's yeah, it's when you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, you have to keep walking and
Yes.
have faith in yourself to to get there. And you're gonna have allow yourself to feel those bad days.
Yeah.
Recognize them. Why do I feel this way? Okay, what can I do about it?
Cool. 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 So when you were going through your process, when you were discovering what your why is, so what is your why?
Well, my why to get better was my son,
Okay.
which became it making my why my son. It ultimately came back to me making myself healthier. But now my why is different. So my
Oh,
why,
has
yeah,
evolved.
is to provide for my kids, right? Give them a good role model. But it's, now my why is people that are suffering. So that's why I like going around and speaking, because I can hit a broader audience. And when you stand up in front of people and their eyes are on you and they're paying attention, they're listening, and they're locked on you and they're taking in what you're saying, it's a really good feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So now I get the opportunity to go talk a little bit about my experiences, but on ways on how to get help for it, how to acknowledge it, and where to reach out. So that my why is people now, like people, to bring awareness to you know um, what the power of addiction can do,
Yes.
what mental health's capabilities are if you don't get help for it, and if you keep, what, for men, if you keep living by that man up stigma, be a man. Well, you know what being a man is. It's taking responsibilities for what you've done and
Mhm.
asking for help.
Yes.
I I just read a book by William H. McCraven, and he's a Navy SEAL, and he talks about for one, the best thing quote I've ever heard him say is, "Don't ever ring that bell." So in the Navy
Okay.
SEAL compound, they have that bell you can ring if you quit, and it makes you quit. It means you quit. So no more cold days, dark nights, and stuff like that, and no more long hours, cold swims. but you ring that bell, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. So anytime I felt like ringing the bell, I was like, okay, I just can't ring that bell. Then I got his book, and he says, if you want to change the world, don't do life alone. So he got in a parachute accident or ripped his pelvis in half. So this is a Navy SEAL who's talking about this, who are the badasses. They're like creme de la creme, and they can do anything in life. He said what helped him the most was his friends coming over, his friends texting him, his wife being there, and the attorney general or his lieutenant checking in on him.
Wow.
So this is a Navy SEAL saying, hey, you don't have to do it alone. So you get all these guys like, oh, I got to man up. I got to man up. I mean, sometimes you do have to man up, that take responsibility for what you did, for what you've said, right? For how you've acted, but ask for help.
Definitely. Definitely. Love that. So my next question is, so what did you have to do to overcome or bounce back from your lowest points? List all the resources that were applicable that helped you to help you bounce back. I know we talked a lot about it in your story, when you talk about resilience, but if you can just list the resources that were helpful to you, that'd be awesome.
Well, finding my why was the big one.
Yes.
You know, knowing that I'm better than that, no, that I deserve happiness, that I need to love myself first was big. Realizing that, I'm not the only one that suffers. Like there's 1 in every 10 people in the world have a mental health issue, and it could be even worse right now with what's going on.
Definitely.
Right? 1 out of every 5 people will suffer from some sort of mental health episode. And so allowing myself to, or give myself the grace to know that I'm not alone in this. And it's because I always thought I was the unnormal one, right? But doing gratitude, like, what are you grateful for? Start your day off of it. 3 things you're grateful for. Like, you want to start or end your day with gratitude. Like, what am I grateful for today? I actually have an alarm on my phone that's, the first one's 6 o'clock. It says unleash the beast. So just wake up. At 12 o'clock, it says gratitude, mindfulness, and affirmations. So that's like, what am I grateful for? Okay. And then mindfulness. What am I thinking about right now? What's around me? And then affirmations, like I am statements, like I am, I am strong. I am recovery. I am adversity. I am a good person, reaffirming to myself of who I am. But also I journaled my feelings for a while there. And like I said, podcasting, that was a big thing for me. I was listening to podcasts every single day, of guys, manly men who say, hey, it's okay. I struggled too. Like guys that struggle with addictions, and saying it's okay. You're going to have those days, but ask for help. You're not alone. So reading was one. Exercising has been the best antidepressant I've ever had.
Yeah, definitely.
Eating healthy is I don't think people really realize how important eating healthy is for your brain. You eat garbage, you start to feel like garbage. It's just 100% true. And whatever, since I quit drinking, I've always had a sugar bug, and it's I can get cravings and addictions to sugar. And it's, if I ever do go down that road, it's it makes me feel bad, and like I feel guilty and shameful for having it, but then it makes me feel drained, and it just takes a lot out of me. So having that healthy diet it's key, like eating superfoods and like blueberries and spinach and healthy fats, and they're all there for a reason.
Yes. Brain food.
But the best thing to do is take the first step. So I actually have something called my 3 A's. So that's admit the problem, whatever it is that you face, accept it internally that this is a truth for me, and then you ask for help. So the biggest thing you got to do, well, the first step is you got to admit it. So when I finally admitted that, hey, I am an alcoholic, I am depressed, I had to accept it, but I don't have to let it define who I am. But that's what's going on for me. So I had to admit that to myself. Then I had to accept it internally, and then I asked for help, and I really asked for help. But when it came back to it, I thought I accepted it, but I didn't, because, every time I went sober 1, 2, 3 months, I'm like, oh, I can just have a drink. That guy's doing it. Why can't I do it? And then 1 would turn into 2, turn 2, turn into 3, to throw out to 5, and then we blacked out again. Then miss time at work, miss time with my son. And whenever I started to feel good about myself, I'd stop going to counseling. I'd stop taking my medication. Like, I don't need you. I can do it alone.
Mm-hmm.
So it really had to go back to the acceptance part that, hey, Justin, you should not drink. I'll never say I can't because I don't like that, but I shouldn't. And then, hey, Justin, you need to accept the help. So it's admit the problem, accept it internally, really accept it, and then ask for help. And if you have to be on meds, that's fine. Like I'm not on medication right now, but if I feel like I need to go back on it, I will, because it definitely helped me.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, those are some really good points there to help you. Yeah, those are some good points. My next question is, what are 3 things you wish you had available when you were at your lowest point?
Oh, geez. An understanding, for one, better understanding.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, it's at my lowest point. I did a lot to reach out. Acceptance. I wish I had more acceptance of it. So understanding of the problem,
Yeah.
understanding that it's okay, accepting that I needed help and I had to keep getting help. And I had some people give up on me. So
Yeah.
I wish
I
some
understand
people,
that.
but I had other people step up. So
Yes.
I mean, I had one friend that texted me every day. Unfortunately, he ended up passing away from addiction, so that hurt.
I'm
He ended up
sorry.
overdosing, and then,
Wow.
but yeah, he's good dude too. But another guy stepped up and started texting me every single day, and even if I didn't respond, he didn't get mad at me. He just would text me the next day and just see how I'm doing. So, better like I wish I had some more people that wouldn't give up on me, because at that point I gave up on myself.
Yes, I
And when you
understand.
get other people giving up on you, it's just like, well, what do I have to live for, kind of thing. But having that person that texted me every day was really good. It's when you get into mental health and start to feel low, build yourself up a support network. There are people that are going to build you up and encourage you. Be there to listen to you, not to fix, but just to listen. When you need to be heard.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So understanding and acceptance. Those are 2 really good ones that you were mentioning. Definitely. So what words of hope can you give to our listeners?
You know what? You're gonna have bad days. You're gonna have good days, but it's making sure you take advantage of those good days and giving yourself some grace on those bad days. That what, if you just lay in bed and have some food and watch a movie, that's okay, because you're still here. And in the end, you when you feel like you're alone, you are somebody. You are something to somebody. Like, there are people that love you for you, and you deserve to be here. You deserve to love yourself. You are here for a reason. I know it's hard to sometimes find that reason. At 34, 35 years old, I'm 36 now. I just started finding my purpose. And I
Right.
believe my purpose is to help other people, to bring awareness.
Right.
So don't try to move too quickly. Just do what you can. If baby steps.
Yeah.
It's There's a time where I didn't think I was gonna make it. There's a time where I thought, what, I should just end it all. There's a time I didn't think I'd see my kid scores for school. There was a time my girlfriend left me. 3 years later, we are back together.
Oh, that's wonderful.
She's expecting. We are expecting in September.
Aw.
I got to coach my kid in hockey this year and
Cool.
baseball, and I actually have his first puck from his first goal.
Aw, that's so sweet. I love it.
So if people give up on you, because they might, just don't give up on yourself.
Yes.
Because if it's going to be hard work, yes, but is it going to be worth it? Absolutely. I am proof that it does get better, but we have to work on it.
Yes. Love it. Love that advice. So with that said, we're going to do a switcheroo in topics right now, just a little.
Yeah.
As you can see behind me, there's a book. It's called The Music of My Life. And basically, I talk about my journey with mental health, with bipolar and music therapy. So my question to you is, what type of music do you like?
Oh man, you know what? I listen to a lot of Audible books when I work out, or motivational speaking when I work out. When it comes to music, I am all over the map. If
Okay,
it's
eclectic.
yeah, if it's motivational or if it's somebody singing about their struggles, I love it. Like it's
Okay.
like, okay, I'm not the only one. I'm still
Yeah,
not the only one. So I
right.
like listening to music on like a comeback story, or listening to them. Okay, this is what I went through. This is how I felt. It's something that speaks to me. I listen to country. I don't know if it's hip hop, R&B, you know, rap. Like if it speaks to me, I like it. I
Okay.
I don't discriminate against any music. I don't really
Okay,
have.
that's
If
good.
I had to pick a favorite, I know I like hip hop probably the most, but
Okay,
yeah.
cool. So if you were to think of a song that describes your journey, what would it be and why?
So in rehab, we actually had to play a song for our group, a group of 12 that defined us, kind of like what we felt like. And it's called "Is Happiness Just a Word" by Vinny Paz. Now
Mm,
I don't know if you know it, but I happened to come across it, and it talks about a guy living in his mom's basement, which I did. The guy's very smart, which I got good grades. The doctor's giving all these medications, yet he still feels bad, and he's having a hard time concentrating. And I have ADHD, and I was having a hard time like learning new things and staying concentrated. So it like explained how I was feeling to a T. And like it felt, I actually ended up messaging him. I'm like, man, like it feels like you wrote this about me. He's like, oh, cool, man. I'm glad you got something out of it. He actually responded too. It's pretty cool. Um, but it's explained me what I was feeling. Don't know why I feel like this. I shouldn't feel like this. I'm feeling guilty for feeling like this. My parents don't know why I'm taking these medications. I can't concentrate. I want to die, but I don't want to be dead, kind of thing. And yeah, like it covered everything. So if if somebody wants to listen to what I kind of felt like, it's Vinny Paz. Is Happiness Just a Word?
okay, cool. Yeah, I was taking a listen to it just before we started. It's a pretty good song. I didn't get a chance to get deep into it, but it was a pretty good song. Because I do like a little bit of hip hop as well. So yeah, it seems pretty cool. So
But what did my sister just sent me a song, and she said it reminds her of me now.
oh
um Be a Light by Thomas Rhett, Reba McEntire, and Hillary Scott. It talks about, in a time full of war be the peace, and a time full of hate be the love, kind of thing. And
yeah.
and it's when she sent that to me, I'm like, what are you trying to make me cry? It's like, this reminds me of you. And I'm like, oh, right. Because I try to be that guy that uplifts
Yeah,
people, that smiling voice. Smiling voice. I
smiling.
can be a smiling voice,
Yes,
right? And it was really cool to hear that.
that's cool. It's good when people can see your progress
Yeah,
and that you've actually, that you've come from somewhere and they can identify and they can be like, you know what, they can celebrate with you. It's a really good feeling when someone
oh,
can celebrate your wins.
I'm so happy that you just said that, because in my coaching program, every week we say, let's celebrate some wins. What are some small wins? Because you know what, small wins over time lead to big wins. And if you're struggling, if you know what, yesterday you laid in bed, today you get up, you have a shower, hey, small win, boom. Because I know what it's like. I wouldn't shower for a week.
Yeah, I
Right.
know
And
that
you know
feeling.
what, I just got up and I showered, left my house. That's a big, for me, that was a big win. So build up those small wins or big win and make them a big win, right?
Yes.
Like baby steps. That's all it is baby steps. Because if you take enough baby steps, you're going to learn to take strides. I had
Cool.
this, this saying is, first you learn to crawl. What is it? Then you learn to take baby steps. Then you learn to walk. Then you find your stride.
I like that. I like that. That's really cool. So, Justin, so how can we stay in touch with you? What are your social media handles?
So I turned my personal Facebook into just a regular or into my business Facebook. I share like a little bit of family stuff, but mostly content and lessons. So it's just Justin Brien, or I have a website, www.justinbrien.com, or you can find me on Instagram at justinbrien19.
Cool.
And hey, if you get anything out of this podcast, shoot me a message. I'd love to hear what you thought about it.
Cool. Awesome. So with that said, I want to thank you very much, Justin, for being a guest on our show. I really believe that there are people who are going to take some really great messages and nuggets from your story. And with that said, to all you resilient minds out there, until next time, please subscribe to us on all our platforms, and don't forget to rate the show and leave a review for us on Apple Podcasts. Also, join the community of Resilient Minds and sign up for our monthly newsletter at www.cleonicrawford.com. Be sure to grab a copy of my book, The Music of My Life, on all Amazon marketplaces to get to know me better. And if you can think of one person that will receive value from today's show or connect with Justin's testimonial, please share it with them. Feel free to take a screenshot of this week's episode of the podcast and tag us on Instagram. You can tag myself at Only Cleoni or Resilient Minds 365, and today's guest at Justin Brien 19, if I've got that right.
You got it.
Awesome. And remember, mental health is not a death sentence. Despite your illness, you can strive, thrive, and live a life of abundance. Until next time, I'm Cleoni Crawford, and I'm signing off.